If we ban you from ever teaching publicly again, will you comply?
I've also answered that previously as well.
That's how you answer the Kohen HaGadol?
Nothing in 5 seasons of The Chosen has prepared us for what this trailer is showing us. Not the miracles, not the Sermon on the Mount, not the raising of Lazarus, or any of the other moments that have made this show the most watched, independently produced series in television history. This trailer for Season 6, Episode 1 is something different entirely. Something heavier. Something that lands with a weight that is genuinely difficult to describe to anyone who has not watched all 5 seasons of this show and spent years caring deeply about these characters and understanding what they mean to the people who have followed them. Dallas Jenkins was not being dramatic when he said this is the most difficult season they have ever produced. Jonathan Rumi was not being promotional when he declared this the most demanding work of his entire career. Elizabeth Tabish was not exaggerating when she called the experience heartbreaking and described the agony of watching someone you deeply love be tortured, mocked, and crucified. These are not sound bites designed to generate excitement for a new season. These are honest confessions from people who have been through something genuinely difficult in the making of this story, and who are now preparing audiences for something that is going to hit harder than anything this show has delivered before. The crucifixion scene that this trailer is revealing is not the sanitized, carefully managed version of this story that most of us grew up seeing in Sunday school materials or in earlier film adaptations. This is raw. This is human. This is the weight of what actually happened being placed directly in front of you with nothing softened and nothing removed to make it more comfortable to watch. And what makes it so much more devastating than any previous screen version of this moment is the 5 seasons of relationship this show has built between the audience and every single person who is going to be destroyed by what is coming. We know Jesus. We know Peter. We know Mary Magdalene. We know John and Matthew and all the others. We have watched them grow and struggle and doubt and believe. We have celebrated with them and grieved with them. And now we are going to watch all of it fall apart in the span of a single night. If you thought you were ready for this season, this trailer is specifically designed to show you that you are not. Let me break down everything it is already telling us and why it is hitting differently than anything we have seen from this show before. The trailer opens in the Garden of Gethsemane, and the atmosphere is already unlike anything we have experienced in this show before. There is a specific quality of dread hanging over every frame of these opening moments that is different from tension or suspense in the way those words are usually used. It is not the tension of not knowing what is about to happen. We know exactly what is about to happen. Every person watching this trailer knows what is about to happen, because this is the most documented event in human history, and the reason this show exists in the first place. The dread comes from somewhere else entirely. It comes from the understanding that we are about to watch people we genuinely love go through something we cannot protect them from, and that the distance between knowing something intellectually and experiencing it emotionally through characters you have spent 5 seasons caring about is enormous in a way that this trailer is already beginning to close. Jesus has been praying. The trailer shows us the weight of that prayer in a way that is visceral and immediate, not the serene, composed figure from traditional artwork, but a man in genuine anguish, pouring out his heart to the Father, fully aware of what is coming and feeling the full human weight of it. Jonathan Rumi carries something in these moments that no amount of acting technique can fully explain. It is the specific quality of a performer who has lived with this character for years, and who understands that what he is being asked to portray here is not simply a dramatic scene in a television production, but something that millions of people around the world consider the most important moment in the history of the universe. The responsibility of that is visible in every frame, and it makes the anguish on his face feel less like performance and more like genuine witness. The disciples are gathered nearby, and the trailer shows us their faces too. And this is where 5 seasons of character investment starts paying off in ways that are genuinely devastating. We have watched these people grow. We have seen their faith develop from something fragile and uncertain into something that has been tested and strengthened across years of following Jesus through everything this show has put them through. And now we can see on their faces that they sense something terrible is approaching, even if they do not fully understand what it is. There is a quality of quiet dread in the way they are shown waiting in the garden that reads as completely authentic, because we know these people well enough to understand what quiet dread looks like on each of them specifically. Peter's version of it is different from John's version. John's version is different from Matthew's. The show has built these distinctions carefully across 5 seasons, and they are all present in this trailer in ways that make the garden scene feel personal rather than historical. When Judas arrives with the soldiers, the trailer gives us a moment that should be familiar to anyone who knows this story, but that hits with a specific force that surprises you anyway. The betrayal is something we have been anticipating since Judas was introduced as a character. The show has spent seasons building toward this moment, layering Judas with enough complexity and humanity that his choice in this garden does not read as cartoonish villainy, but as one of the most tragic failures of faith and courage in the entire narrative. When the soldiers come into that garden with torches and weapons drawn, and Judas is standing among them, the reaction on the disciples' faces tells you everything about what this moment costs everyone present. The confusion, the disbelief, the specific horror of watching someone you have broken bread with and traveled with and trusted completely stand on the wrong side of the most important line in history. What the trailer communicates about the arrest scene itself is that Dallas Jenkins and his team have made the deliberate choice to portray the chaos and violence of it honestly, rather than smoothing it into something more cinematic and controlled. The torchlight is wild. The soldiers are loud and aggressive. When one of the disciples draws a sword and cuts off the ear of the high priest's servant, the moment is shocking, not because we do not know it is coming, but because the show has earned our belief in the physical reality of what is happening around it. And then, Jesus stops everything. He heals the man. Even in the moment of his own arrest, with soldiers all around him and his disciples scattered with fear, he stops to heal the man whose ear was just severed by someone trying to protect him. The trailer gives us just enough of this moment to understand its weight, and it is one of the most revealing things in all of this footage about who Jesus is and what he came here to do. The garden is just the beginning. The arrest is just the beginning. And the trail of devastation that follows these disciples through the rest of the night, the hiding, the fear, the guilt, and the denials that are already being set up in these early moments, is only going to get heavier from here. Because the trial scenes that come after this are where the injustice of everything that is happening becomes impossible to look away from. Let's talk about the trial scenes, because this is where the trailer starts doing something that I genuinely was not fully prepared for, even knowing everything I know about how this story goes. There is a specific kind of frustration that builds when you watch an innocent person being railroaded by a system that has already decided the outcome it wants before the process has even begun. And the trial scenes this trailer is giving us glimpses of produce that frustration at an intensity that is genuinely difficult to sit with calmly. These are not abstract historical moments playing out at a comfortable distance. These are people we know, in a situation we understand, being subjected to a process so fundamentally corrupt and so obviously unjust that watching it feels like a personal affront in a way that simply reading about it in the Gospels cannot fully replicate. The Sanhedrin trial is where the trailer spends some of its most concentrated time, and the picture it paints of that proceeding is both historically authentic and emotionally devastating in equal measure. The religious leaders have assembled in the middle of the night, which is itself an indication of how desperate they are to get this done before the people of Jerusalem can rally to Jesus' defense. The irregular timing, the rushed assembly, the willingness to hold a formal legal proceeding under conditions that their own law explicitly prohibited, all of it is visible in the atmosphere the trailer creates around these scenes. You can see the urgency on their faces. You can see the desperation underneath the authority they are performing. These men know they are on shaky ground, and they are moving fast precisely because speed is the only thing that prevents their plan from collapsing under its own legal and moral contradictions. The witness problem is something the trailer handles with a particular honesty that I found genuinely affecting. The Sanhedrin needed credible witnesses to make any kind of legitimate case, and what they got instead was a parade of people whose accounts could not even be made to agree with each other. The trailer gives us brief glimpses of different figures stepping forward to testify, and the chaos that erupts when their stories contradict each other. And what makes this so devastating is not the chaos itself, but what the chaos reveals about the men orchestrating it. They knew going in that their case was built on fabrications. They knew the witnesses were unreliable. They proceeded anyway because the outcome was already decided, and the process was just theater they were performing to give their predetermined conclusion the appearance of legal legitimacy. Watching people in positions of religious and moral authority behave this way is infuriating in a specific way that hits harder, because of how much this show has built our understanding of what genuine faith and genuine integrity actually look like through 5 seasons of showing us Jesus living both. Caiaphas is shown in the trailer trying to maintain control of a proceeding that keeps threatening to expose itself for exactly what it is. And there is something almost pitiable in his desperation, even as his actions are completely indefensible. The show has always been interested in portraying even its antagonists with enough humanity to make them recognizable, rather than simply monstrous. And the glimpses we get of Caiaphas here suggest that Season 6 is continuing that approach. He is not a cartoon villain. He is a man who has convinced himself that what he is doing is necessary, that eliminating this particular threat is the responsible exercise of his authority, that the ends he has convinced himself he is serving justify the corrupt means he is using to serve them. That self-justification is actually more chilling than simple malice would be, because it is recognizable in a way that pure villainy is not. Jesus throughout all of this remains in a posture of profound silence, that the trailer communicates with close-up shots of his face that are among the most powerful images in this entire piece of footage. He is not afraid. He is not scrambling to defend himself or find arguments that might shift the tide of what is happening. He is watching. And what his face shows as he watches is not anger or resentment, or even the kind of resigned acceptance that might suggest defeat. It is something much harder to look at than any of those things. It is sorrow. Genuine, deep, profound sorrow for the men in front of him who have chosen this path and who are so far from the truth they claim to serve that they cannot even recognize it standing bound in front of them. That sorrow communicates something about Jesus that theological language sometimes struggles to capture, which is that the suffering he is about to endure is not something being done to him against his will, but something he is choosing to allow out of a love for the very people who are perpetrating it that surpasses anything human comprehension can fully hold. The moment the trailer builds toward in the trial section is Caiaphas finally losing patience with the chaos and demanding a direct answer from Jesus. Are you the Messiah, the Son of God? The question hangs in the air of the trailer for just long enough to feel genuinely weighty before we get Jesus' response. And when that response comes, it is not defensive or qualified or strategically worded to avoid giving his accusers what they want. He tells them exactly who he is. He tells them they will see the Son of Man seated at the right hand of power, coming on the clouds of heaven. And the reaction in that room is immediate and explosive. Caiaphas tears his robes. The members of the Sanhedrin erupt, and the charge is set: blasphemy, which means death. The trailer captures the bitter irony of this moment with an honesty that is almost unbearable. The one true thing said in that entire corrupt proceeding is the thing that condemns him. He told them the truth about who he was, and they used the truth to justify killing him. The Sanhedrin has what it wanted. The charge has been declared. But here is where the situation becomes even more complicated, because the religious leaders have the verdict they wanted, and they still cannot carry it out on their own authority. They need Rome. They need Pilate. And getting what they want from a Roman governor who finds no legitimate crime in front of him requires a completely different kind of manipulation than what they have been doing all night. And the trailer shows us exactly how willing they are to go to those lengths. The shift from the Sanhedrin trial to the Roman proceedings is where this trailer demonstrates something about Season 6's ambitions that I think deserves to be acknowledged clearly before we get into the specific content of what these scenes are showing us. Most screen versions of the Passion narrative